welcome back, Abs Nation. Welcome back to our Take Back Fridays. And last week I was not here, so we're going to do a double take for our Women's History Month. So I'm going to do two this week since I missed last week. I needed some self-care time, so I took that week off during my spring break because I needed it as these cheerings is coming on back here in the schools, you know. So I need to just kind of take some time to breathe. Anyway, the first one I'm going to be talking about is Joni Mitchell. All right, so we still in our music legends, and we're going to talk a little bit about Joni Mitchell. I have a quote by Robbie Robertson, so I'm going to read that, and then we're going to go ahead and go on. So Joni Mitchell, Lady of the Canyon. I was honored when Joni asked me to play guitar on her song Raised on Robbery because it refers to old stomping grounds in Toronto for both her and me. RR. All right, let's get on into some Joni Mitchell. So, at the tender age of 9, Joni Mitchell was struck with polio. Doctors in the small town of Saskatchewan, Canada, where she grew up, said that she would never walk again. She filled the time drawing, painting, and singing. Go ahead, girl. It was during this time she made the commitment to become an artist. And when she recovered, she began her journey as a poet. Her 7th grade teacher inspired her by saying, if you can paint with a brush, then you can paint with words. In time, Joni would become one of the greatest poets of her generation. When she released her first album, the dedication read, "To Mr. Kratzman, who taught me to love words." Throughout high school, Joni played a song at local clubs, but she didn't plan to pursue a career in music. She wanted to be a painter. After enrolling in the Alberta College of Art and Design, she became dissatisfied quickly and decided to drop out. At the age of 20, Joni headed east to the big city of Toronto to begin her life as a folk singer. Although she had no formal musical training and never learned to read music, she created her own complex, unique style of playing. She played guitar in different tunings to compensate for the fact that her left hand was weaker and weakened by polio. The sounds she created were more like jazz than standard folk or rock music chords. Joni was talented, ambitious, and independent, but she faced an incredible challenge for the time. She'd broken up with her boyfriend and was pregnant. In the 1960s, there was still a great deal of stigma attached to being unmarried and having a baby. Joni was having difficulty supporting herself and her music, let alone a child. She made the tough decision to give her daughter up for adoption. Keeping the pregnancy and birth a secret, even from her own parents, grappling with the sorrow, shame, and isolation the decision brought, Joni put her energy into songwriting. Rather than focusing on political and social issues like traditional folk artists such as Woody Guthrie, Joni wanted to tell stories that spoke to personal human truths, and her songs reveal quite a bit about her life. Her romances, her neighbors, and the daughters she had given up for adoption all found their way into her songs, which tends to happen when you're writing. You tend to have a piece of you in there. The song Little Green appeared on Blue, an album considered by many to be her greatest work. The songs was a ghost, a memory, a clue. Joni was sharing the story of a child born to a young mother, a mother who with no means to care for her, a child given up for adoption. It wasn't until 32 years later when Joni was reunited with her daughter and revealed her story that fans would understand the true inspiration for that song. By the time she was 24 years old, Joni had published an incredible 38 songs. Many well-known folk singers of the time recorded her material. Songs like The Circle Game, Both Sides Now, and Chelsea Morning soon became hits. Joni traveled to Michigan, New York City, and then, while performing in Florida, she met Dave Crosby of the Byrds, who later went on to form the band Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. David was so impressed by Joni's talent that he brought her to California and produced her first album, titled Song to a Seagull, which included the hand-painted cover art. By the time her third album, Ladies of the Canyon, was released, containing hits like Woodstock, Big Yellow Taxi, and The Circle Game, Joni was an established superstar. People were amazed at her vocal arrangements, noting they had as much in common with jazz performances as pop. Her guitar playing, impeccably performed and coupled with her unusual tuning, earned her great critical praise as a musician. But it was her lyrics, the words of a true poet, that would earn her the highest praise. Her next two albums, Blue and Court and Spark, rocked Joni into the status of a true icon. Forever a restless, creative soul, Joni experimented with jazz, illustrating yet again that her musical skills had no visible boundaries. Although this work was not as popular as her pop material, it showed how peerless she was musically, and cemented the respect held for her as a complete musician. The oft-repeated claim that Joni was the greatest female singer-songwriter was by now, if not an insult, at least a backhanded compliment. Joni Mitchell is one of the greatest songwriters, musicians, and poets of any era, period. Joni Mitchell, you guys. Joni Mitchell. Look her up for some more information. Let's go ahead and go into our second one for the week. All right, y'all. So next up, we have Billie Holiday. And I want to read a little bit about her. Billie Holiday, some of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Billie Holiday. Another legend here. So Billie Holiday, Lady Day. When I first heard the sound of Lady Day, I thought her voice told more stories than one life can live. I had never come across anything quite like that before. A voice that could dazzle you with smoke and tears. R.R., which is Robbie Robertson. All right, Lady Day, let's read a little bit about you. Like a flower that grows from crack in the sidewalk. From a crack, not crack, y'all. From a crack in the sidewalk. Billie Holiday reached for the sun and bloomed despite impossible adversity. Artists like Vincent van Gogh harnessed their pain and sadness and turned it, this light, y'all, is like really getting me here. I'm trying not to cover myself up with the book. All right, let's try that angle here. Hopefully that ain't too, we're gonna see. Okay. Artists like Vincent van Gogh harnessed their pain and sadness and turned it into visual masterpieces. Billie used the same emotions to create masterpieces with her voice, pouring her broken heart into every word she sang. Billie changed the landscape of music with her unique voice and songs. Billie had a tough life from the beginning. Born in 1915, Her mother was only 14 when she gave birth to Billie. Her father, a jazz musician, abandoned the family when she was a baby. Billie's mom did the best she could, but she had to travel far to work odd jobs and would leave Billie in the care of friends and family. Having very little parental guidance was hard on her, and she suffered cruelty and abuse. She skipped school regularly. When Billie was 9 years old, she had to go to court for missing so many days of school and was sent to reform school for a year. By the 5th grade, she had dropped out completely. Things got even harder for Billie. At age 14, Billie and her mother were living in a brothel in Harlem, New York. Billie liked to sing along to jazz greats like Louis Armstrong on the radio. When she sang, she was free from her worries. However, she couldn't escape her environment. When the police raided the house, Billie and her mom were arrested and sent to jail for almost a year. In the 1930s, Billie began singing for tips in nightclubs in Harlem. Her raspy, haunting vocal delivery instantly caught the ears of the greats. Soon, Billie was recording with some of the biggest band leaders of her day, from Benny Goodman to Duke Ellington. The way Billie phrased the lyrics was so original, it influenced these professional musicians to phrase their notes to try to sound like her. Her friend and musical colleague, saxophonist Lester Young, gave her the nickname Lady Day for her sophisticated and subtle style. Billie became one of the first African American performers to tour with Artie Shaw's band. This was unheard of at the time when African Americans did not have the same rights as whites. Billie was devastated by the racism she faced and returned to New York City to strike out on her own. In 1939, Billie recorded a beautiful ballad called Strange Fruit. It's an incredibly sad song about racism, and the lyric Strange Fruit is a metaphor for African Americans who were hanged from trees. Strange Fruit was one of the first anti-racism songs in American popular music. It was very daring for an African American woman like Billie to tackle this topic and was a huge milestone in Billie's career. Columbia, her record label, would not record the song, and many radio stations would not play it. That same year, Billie wrote a song called God Bless the Children. At the time, it was unusual for a singer to write her own songs. This song has gone on to be listed as one of the songs of the century by the Recording Industry of America and the National Endowment of the Arts. It is also honored in the Grammy Hall of Fame. Billie became one of the most respected jazz singers of her time. She found acceptance through her music, but her harsh upbringing haunted her, and she turned to drugs and alcohol. Unfortunately, her surroundings were too rough. The odds were too great, and she died at the age of 44 due to complications from her addiction. It's a true tragedy that we don't have more of her music to live with, which makes it all the more important to cherish and share what she has left for us. So, Billie Holiday. Y'all, my eyes is tired from reading. But I wanted to get 2 in. And I know this went over a little bit, but I wanted to get 2 in because I'm trying to get at least 4 in, this month for our Women's History Month. So Billie Holiday, put in the comments if there's someone that that you would like me to look into and kind of do a little blurb about, let me know in the comments, especially if there are singers, any like legendary singers that you want me to kind of touch on. But that is all we have for this week. So, Billie Holiday, I will see you all next week. And until then, Abs Nation, keep on marching on. Bye.